Right, I started the recording. So on my end, finished the community stuff. I'm sorry about the performance degradation. I believe I shipped a fix. I don't know where we are on the testing about that. I sent the branch yesterday evening, afternoon. Um, and meanwhile, I'm working on the next feature, which is beneficiaries settings for communities, where it's more of the same, like content policing, let's say, where if you don't follow the certain rules of a community, then your post is going to get muted. PicD has introduced this feature already, but it requires you to add basically their bot as a moderator, which is less than ideal. So I'm working on adding that to the base layer. And yeah, I'm happy to discuss the performance degradation and other things later. That's it for
Okay.
me.
Yeah. One running with your new version. We found a unrelated issue with HiveMind's server setup. Um, that think that Deathwake ran into this problem when he was testing, and we ran into it too when we ran with the full stack. Um, so we should have a fix for that today, though. As far as your change goes, I think we're around 20 million blocks right now. So probably about tomorrow we'll know if the fix is working or not for the performance, because it doesn't kick into around the 37th million block or so. Let's see what else. Uh, Bartek's out today, so I didn't really get a chance to check up with him. But I'm roughly aware of where everything's at. So essentially, now we're into the testing phase. Um, we've been testing on, I guess, about 9 machines, just to test various variations of optimizations of how the stack sets up for the API nodes. Um, and so far, it's gone pretty well. We've found some nice ways to improve things as we go along, but we're still finding small things we can do to improve things. Um, the last thing we kind of want to do is start testing real world traffic instead of just benchmarks. And so we want to try a different methodology that we've done in the past. In the past, we've actually redirected the traffic, and the traffic's been responding to actual customers, users, whatever you want to call them. And of course, that could be a problem if there's any bugs or performance problems. So this time, we're going to try things a little differently. We're going to send the data to both our node, our, our normal node, and our production node. And so we'll just be testing the production node's performance, but the results won't actually be feeding back to users. So there's no chance there'll be a disruption that way of anybody's use of the services in Hive. So that's we're using the new methodologies take us a little more time. So we'll have to make sure we've got it all set up right. But I think we'll begin today, probably. If not tomorrow, we'll have everything set up to go. And that's, for my mind, probably the last big thing we need to do is the real world tests, just to be sure no unexpected performance that really isn't possible to see until you have that kind of big mix of requests going to the servers. I'm trying to think what else. Really, is not much else. I think we'll, if everything goes smooth this last phase, I hope we can put out a new release candidate next week. We'll have 2 servers running, one that we can direct the real traffic to, another mirror node server. So people will be able to test on both of those. The mirror node server will be particularly important for anyone who wants to be sure that changes haven't broke anything in their application. So we're really going to want all the guys who are running like PeakD and the condenser and things like that to test on the mirror node so that they can find out if any changes is a breaking change. Um, it's not a lot I expect that could happen for, but I've mentioned already in Mattermost, one issue would be that uh, we're disabling the transaction status plug in favor of the new call. Well, it's actually an old call, but it's just not been used as much, I think. And another thing that I know has changed is the eCNC guys added a reblog field to one of their existing API calls. Again, I don't expect that should cause any problems, but it's just that kind of thing. With a lot of small changes, we really want to be tested against applications before we make an official release. So I guess that's about it for me.
Cool. Anyone else has anything they want to share?
No, not really. Thanks for the update, the block trades. We're looking forward to 175. You said this will be by next week, so we should be able to start rolling our testing for ActiveIt as well to call
Yes.
the.
So just to clarify, though, this is a release candidate that'll be next week.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Yeah, but we'd like to. I think we'll be ready for everybody to start testing their apps on the MirrorNet, and that's definitely what we want everybody to do as fast as possible, because that'll be the final stage where we can do a release.
Excellent. We're happy to do that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. I have just one topic on basically the making sure that performance degradation doesn't happen. Is there any plan on basically making a manual pipeline, because running this at every occasion would suck too much? But like, I feel like, I guess whenever something gets pulled into develop, we could, well, I mean, even before, like just before merging, we could have something like running a manual step.
So what we've been, right now the thing is the pipelines don't run for more than 5 million blocks, right?
Yeah.
So these sometimes there's a performance problem like this one that somehow doesn't show up until 37 million block. So it's always been our plan to set up so you can run like a long run that runs, we don't know, maybe all the way to head block, but something like that. And just make it a manual step so it's not automated. So it can just be like a FIDO check you can do just to be sure there's no problems. It's just not there yet. It's just a step we haven't done. It does going to create obviously a lot more data, and it's going to take a lot longer to run. So it's going to tie up services unless we're adding more build servers to sort of address that. We've got 3 right now, which we used to only have 2, and I think we're going to add a 4th before long. So that plus improvements in the speed of CI and resources and things like that, we definitely want to be able to offer that as an option on the build systems before too long.
Yeah, okay, good. That's good to hear.
But yeah, it's definitely a problem. A lot of people don't really have systems that can easily run that long. And
yeah, I thought about getting a dedicated computer, but I don't. I mean, to run all of that, but I don't have the space yet to do it.
Yeah, I understand.
Because I mean, when you sent me the PG Hero queries, I was like, okay, that's there. I know immediately. But because I cannot train it myself right now, it's tricky.
But yeah. So just to clarify what Hao was talking about, the new stack for API nodes includes PG Hero and PG Admin running alongside the half database. So it's very easy to quickly sort of spot performance problems and things like that. We've been using those tools internally for a long time, but now they'll be available to anyone who's running an API node, and they can start to, if they're having a problem with their server, they can inspect that and either try to troubleshoot the problem themselves or at least give feedback to other devs to figure out what's going on. Might be a short meeting today.
Yeah, it looks like it. Well, I mean, I don't have any other topics apart from that and what I'm currently working on. I'm still into design phase, so I have a branch that's up, but I am not done with most of the difficult part of it. Because the issue is that pretty much everything happens in this one big query, where basically the post gets ingested, and so I need to change that as well. So it does worry me a bit about performance issues.
So this is a query on the indexing side or on the...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, those are always the most tricky.
Yeah, it's like 200. I exported all of the logic away in a second function so that it's more digestible for a reviewer. But in a nutshell, everything is going to happen in once. So because it has to be at injection time, because that's where you set the is muted field. But yeah, I don't know how expensive this will be in the end, performance-wise. So I'm still I'm building the feature and then I'll run some tests. Now
Okay,
that I'm
yeah,
a bit more focused in mind,
yeah. And once you're ready, I can run a long
yeah,
form test for you afterwards.
yeah,
Just
that sounds good.
contact me and I'll handle it.
Yeah, just so that we can catch those earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have for yesterday.
Okay.
Anyone has anything else before we wrap this up?
Actually, I'll mention something if no one else says anything. There was another topic brought up. Somebody wrote a new idea for a change in the way the voting worked. Um, and one of the other devs asked me about it yesterday. And I read through the article and it seems not unreasonable to me either. I don't know if any of you guys had a chance to read it or not, but it was a suggestion to change the way voting works so that if you vote once and then you vote your second time, it doesn't actually decrease the power of the vote. It just decreases your voting power that you have long term. So it doesn't do that slow decay that it does right now, where you vote the first vote, it's the most powerful, second one's less powerful, so on, so on, so on.
Okay, but then what's... Oh, and it just removes your long-term voting power, and
Exactly.
so it doesn't change much, but it's more consistent UX-wise.
Yeah, it seemed more intuitive to me.
Yeah.
And they had some pretty good arguments, I thought, for it too. And as far as I understand, it might be an easy change. I haven't looked at the code myself, but I was given that impression in that case. So I thought
Yeah.
it was something worth talking about.
Voting is a bit annoying because it's everything uses the Malabar system, and so that's gonna have to change. Because Malabar is also is shared among all of the things that regenerate, including RC. So voting will have to have its own settings. I mean, basically, a new system will have to be coded to accommodate these changes.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Or we can just set it like voting Malabar versus RC Malabar. But yeah, I don't assume it would be too complicated.
I haven't read the article myself, but I mean, would you know the main reason behind the vote value decay behind the first vote?
No, I really don't. That's the thing. It was just always that way, and I've never heard a particular justification for it. In fact, the other dev was asking me what the justification was. I was like, I have no idea.
Yeah, it seems weird because I mean, if you're giving value for your first vote, you're probably thinking that this first vote is the most important one. You're giving it the most value. But yeah, I mean, I don't
but I don't think
see
most
how.
people actually think that way.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't make sense because I mean, you might not stumble upon the first quality content, and then you want to vote
Almost
for it.
certainly you won't.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, if that's the nutshell of the change, it kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I think more than the programming side right now, I just want to throw out the idea for anyone to think about and see if they thought of any reasons why it was the way it was now. If it made sense to them, because it didn't make sense to me, but can't
Yes,
say.
because voting back in the days was completely different. We had those multiple windows where you could vote. It was 1 day window and 7 day window, even 30-day window. And so we might have been trying to protect ourselves from some abuse, but I don't know if it's still the case with the voting that we have.
Yeah,
right
I mean, it's hard for me to think of what the abuse would be right off the top of my head. That's for sure. I'll kick it around and see if I can think of anything, but nothing really comes to my mind.
I think the value of the second vote depends on the voting power at the moment of the vote. But just you spend now you
Yeah.
don't lose the rewards before you lost them, but now you depends on the value of the voting power, and also the rewards depend if the post is in the first 24 hours or not. Because if you vote and it's in the 48 or it's after the 24 hours, it's also will
Yeah,
decrease.
there's a decay on time, and the other one, it is in fact, we know why it is. You're right. It's the voting power change that makes the difference. But it's just the question is, does that? Oh, my screen mode. I don't know. I sound out. Let's see. I can't hear anyone anymore. Okay, now I can. So, yeah, I mean, what you said is correct. That's why it works. That the question is, should it work that way? And I haven't heard a good justification for why it works that way right now.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway.
Nice.
I'm not expecting an answer today. I just threw it out there.
Yeah, no, I
Just-
don't have any strong opinions on this really. Like I don't mind. Kind of-
It's worth reading the article, I think, because
Yeah.
they made some pretty persuasive arguments for the case of changing it.
All right. Short meeting today then.
Okay.
Well,
Thanks, guys.
thanks.
See ya.
Thank you,
Great,
guys.
everyone.
You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.